to get started, and I'm going to jump right in because I'm really excited just to share this message with you guys. I'm also really excited that I get to be the person to close off our House of Prayer series. If you have been coming to our church these past few weeks, or you've been streaming online, you would know that we have been going through a series on the House of Prayer. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited that we're actually starting our House of Prayer in August. It is incredible. We've been praying for it. We've been planning for it. We're going to share more about it, but I am so excited that we're actually going to start it August, which is tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. So we're so excited. But today, I'm just going to jump right in. You know, I wanted to have I usually start off with a story or I have something kind of funny to start off with, mostly for myself, to make myself feel comfortable. But I'm just going to jump right in. Today, the title of my message is called Poured Out. Poured Out. And I think just as I've been preparing for this message, as I was in worship this morning, I just felt God saying, I want my people poured out before me. And so I'm so excited to share with you guys. And sorry, again, if I get kind of choked up. It's just been such a long time since I've been able to sit here and just be in God's presence, in worship, in community. And so I just feel God's presence here and on me. So, amen. So I'm going to get started. My message is called Poured Out. And today I want to talk about worship that displays a holding nothing back type of passion, take my all type of devotion. Here is my life as an offering type of prayers to God. I just want to go straight to the point. Today, I want to talk about how we as God's children, we as God's people, are called to offer God poured out worship. And today I'm going to speak from Luke chapter 7. We're going to read a story from Luke about a sinful woman who gives Jesus poured out worship by breaking an alabaster flask at his feet and pouring out perfume. And this passage, I want to point out, is different from another woman, Mary of Bethany, who actually pours out perfume at the feet of Jesus. This woman is different from Mary. This woman is Sinful Woman. In fact, we don't know her name because in the Bible, her name is Sinful Woman. In Luke 7, it says that a sinful woman came and poured out worship to Jesus. And so I'm going to give you guys some context for this passage, some context for the story, and then we're going to read it together. This passage takes place in the house of a Pharisee, Simon the Pharisee. Simon hears about Jesus, the famous rabbi, and he invites Jesus over to have a meal with him. And so he invites him, and there's three things that I want to invite you guys to focus on in this passage. And the first is this. While Jesus is reclining at a table, a sinful woman, a woman that is likely a prostitute, because it says a woman from the city, and scholars actually say that when they say a woman from the city, it actually kind of insinuates that it might have been a prostitute. A sinful woman who is poor, marginalized, living in sin, comes in to this dinner that Jesus is having at the rabbi's house unnoticed and uninvited. And she walks in, and before she can even see the face of Jesus, she starts weeping. She starts crying, and she kneels down. She lets her hair down. How many of us girls, when we're done with whatever, our girls' night out or a wedding, we love just taking our hair out, taking off our makeup and just being at home. And so this sinful woman, she takes down her hair, and she wipes the feet of Jesus and pours out perfume at his feet. The second thing I want us to focus on is that Simon the Pharisee, who is a religious elite, who is privileged with power, wealth, and education, he reacts to the sinful woman by immediately judging her. And third, Jesus, in response to the Pharisee's judgment, internal judgment, responds to the Pharisee with a story about two debtors. And so we're going to read this passage together, and I want us to just really vividly take in what Luke, the author of this passage, is trying to convey to us by the comparison of these two people. So Luke chapter 7, 36 to 50, Jesus anointed by a sinful woman. One of the Pharisees asked him to eat with him, and he went into the Pharisee's house and reclined at table. And behold, a woman of the city who was a sinner, when she learned that he was reclining at the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of ointment, and standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears, and wiped them with the hair of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what sort of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner. And Jesus answering to him, that's kind of scary, right? Jesus hears his internal thoughts and says, well, I got something to say to you, right? Jesus turns to him and says, Simon, I have something to say to you. And he answered, say it, teacher. So Simon doesn't know what's coming, right? A certain moneylender has two debtors. One owed 500 denarii and the other 50. When they could not pay, he canceled the debt of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon answered, the one, I suppose. He's like, I guess, I don't know. The one, I suppose, for whom he canceled the larger debt. And he said to him, you have judged rightly. Then turning toward the woman, he said, Simon, do you see this woman? Do you see this woman? I entered your house, and you gave me no water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not ceased to stop kissing my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with ointment. Therefore, I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she has loved much. But he who has forgiven little loves little. And he said to her, your sins are forgiven. Then those who were at the table with him began to say amongst themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? And she said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. And so here in Luke, we see that Luke tells the story of two different people, a Pharisee and a sinful woman, a sinner. She's known as sinner, with two different responses to Jesus and two different responses from Jesus. And what's amazing is that Jesus responds to the sinful woman with an embrace, and he looks to Simon and he rebukes him. And Jesus' response to the sinful woman shows us that she actually had a right understanding of who Jesus was and what he desired. She was able to give him worship poured out because she grasped something about Jesus that Simon could not. And so I know I already gave you guys some details, but just for 1 second, I want you to imagine this woman comes uninvited to a dinner of religious elite, people who are high status in society, people who think they have it all together. And she comes in, and in an undignified way, she starts weeping, she starts kneeling down before him, she starts touching him. And Simon is like, oh my gosh, this woman from the city, this dirty woman is touching this rabbi. And what's worse is this rabbi's letting her touch him. Something's wrong, and Simon's confused. But Jesus, again, embraces the woman. Here is my first point. I'm just going to jump right in. Worship is a response to Jesus' invitation to an intimate, raw, and passionate relationship with us. There is passion in this passage. There is affection in this passage. There is devotion in this passage. And what is the essence of worship? A lot of us, when we think of worship, we think of someone who is singing, someone who is clapping, but worship is so much more than that. In Greek, in worship, proskuneo, it's translated to kiss, to bow down, to lay prostrate in reverence. And this woman, she literally kneels down before Jesus. She literally bows down before him. She's literally weeping before him and kissing his feet. And her response to Jesus gives us an image of what worship tangibly looks like. It's to pour ourselves out at the feet of Jesus. And she offers her whole self at the feet of Jesus, her sinful self, her broken self. And why is she doing this? It's because she is responding to Jesus' invitation to an intimate relationship that embraces the dirtiest parts of her, the most shameful parts of her, the most intimate and untouched parts of her. And I want to highlight that there are two responses to Jesus in this passage. The first is personal. The sinful woman, she responds to Jesus in a personal way. Simon responds to Jesus in an impersonal way. See, the sinful woman wanted an encounter. She's probably heard about Jesus because, Jesus was a famous rabbi, thousands of people after him, following him. And she's probably heard about him, but she looks after him. She seeks after him. And she shows up at this dinner uninvited because she says, it's not enough to hear about him. It's not enough to just see him from afar. I want to touch him. I want to worship him. I want to display how grateful I am for this good news that he's sharing. And so she gets close to him. She is personal with him. She wants an encounter with him. On the other hand, Simon, in this passage, who's confused, responds to Jesus impersonally. He wants an interaction with Jesus. He wants to have dinner with Jesus. He says, you know what? It's the right thing to do to invite this rabbi to dinner. It's the right thing to do to invite him because I kind of want to check him out. I want to see if he says who he truly says he is. And what happens is Simon wants an interaction. The sinful woman, another difference is the sinful woman is overcome with emotions. Before the sinful woman even sees Jesus, she is overcome with emotions. She starts weeping. She starts crying. She starts letting her hair down, and she can't stop kissing his feet. And Simon, because he is being impersonal, he doesn't fully grasp and understand who Jesus is, why he came, what he's about to do. Simon is skeptical. He is trying to check Jesus out. He's saying, are you really who you say you are? And he hides his thoughts from Jesus. In essence, he's checking Jesus out. I know a lot of you guys, actually, I'm not going to call you guys out, but I was going to say any single people in here. But, a lot of you guys are on Hinge, right? And a lot of my friends tell me Hinge horror stories. Like your first date and they're sitting there, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of here. Or they tell me first Hinge amazing dates where they had, and it just clicked, things went really well. And in essence, what's happening here is Simon is on his first date with Jesus. He's like, let me check him out. Let me just hold back a little bit. I'm not going to really, tell him what I'm thinking. I'm not going to really be myself. And he's checking Jesus out. And he's saying if he is who truly Jesus says he is. On the other hand, the sinful woman comes with the ring. She's like, I know it's my first time meeting you, but I've heard about you, and I take you at your word, and I believe you. And she comes, and she gives Jesus the most expensive thing she has. She says, I'm giving you my commitment. I'm giving you everything. And see, Jesus' response to Simon reveals that he was pointing out Simon's religion. He looks at Simon, and he says, let me tell you something, Simon. And he tells the story of these two debtors, and in essence, what Jesus is after is Simon's religion. That Simon as a Pharisee was like, she's being too much. She's overstepping. She's stepping out of line. And what Jesus is after is his impersonal, dispassionate, detached understanding of Jesus. Jesus wants proximity. Jesus wants affection. Jesus wants honesty, messiness, passion. And this woman understood that. Can you imagine her as a sinful woman, as a prostitute, seeing him from afar and saying, wow, he's saying that I can be forgiven. He's saying that someone like me can enter the kingdom of God. Dare I even say that maybe she was friends with the Samaritan woman, or maybe she heard the Samaritan woman's testimony that said, let me tell you about a man that has told me everything about myself, everything that I've ever done, that I have 5 husbands, but he reached out to me. He had a conversation with me. See, this sinful woman, she understood something about Jesus that Simon just couldn't grasp. And so their responses are completely different. And is the text saying that our relationship with God needs to be emotional? That it only has to be emotional? No, it's not. The problem with Simon's response is that it's skeptical, it's intellectual, and it's only that. He's just detached from Jesus. He has no affection towards Jesus. Here's my, I'm going to transition. Here's my second point. Worship is a response to seeing his beauty. And let me take it a step further. Worship is not only a response to seeing his beauty, but it is a response to seeing how deeply sinful you are, yet how deeply loved you are. See, what is the sinful woman doing when she breaks the alabaster flask and pours out perfume at the feet of Jesus? She is saying, take all that I have and take all that I am. I'm just going to go right in, guys. She's saying, take all that I have and take all that I am. For the sinful woman, the alabaster jar was more than just an expensive offering. The alabaster jars, culturally, women wore it around their necks, kind of on a necklace. And so culturally, it was a sign of beauty. But for this woman who might have been a prostitute, who had a reputation as being a sinful woman, it wasn't just a symbol of her beauty, but it was a symbol of her livelihood, the attention she got from men, her desirability, her attractiveness she found her worth in as a prostitute. And as a poor woman, it represented her savings, like all of her money. And what she does is she says, here, take it all. Take all that I have, the most expensive thing I have, but not just the expensive thing I have, but who I am. That I used to find my worth in what men thought of me or the satisfaction I got from men, but she's saying, take all of me. And the tension in this passage, as I highlighted from the beginning, is that Simon is confused. He's disgusted, borderline disgusted by the woman. He's creeped out by the woman. He's cringing at the woman's actions, and he can't understand her senseless actions, and he's thinking, why is she being so outrageous? She's not just bringing an expensive flask of perfume, but she's touching him. She's kissing him. She's getting emotional. She's weeping at him, at his feet. And he is thinking in his mind, she is out of line. She is being ridiculous. She is overstepping. And Simon couldn't understand. The second thing Simon's confused about is he's confused why Jesus would let her do that. Why would Jesus let a sinful, dirty, broken woman who has such a reputation let her touch someone like him? And he's thinking that. And without knowing, Simon already knows, Jesus already knows what Simon is thinking. And in response, when he tells the parable of the two debtors, in essence, what he is saying is, Simon, you don't understand her actions because you don't understand debt. See, in the context of religion, you think you have it all together. You go to the temple, you feed the poor, you teach others about the law, you offer sacrifices, you think you're good. You don't see the need for forgiveness. And see, for some of us right here in church, it might be that we think we're good. I don't cuss. I don't curse. I'm not sleeping around. I'm not doing what this shameful and sinful woman does. I pay my taxes. Like we might think we have it all together. And Simon, who thinks he has it all together, is disgusted by this woman. And what Jesus is saying, on the other hand, here's this sinful woman. This sinful woman who is fully aware of how people see her. Who is fully aware of how people see her as dirty. Fully aware that people actually call her sinner, not even by her name. And what's most important is that she herself knows that about her. She knows I'm dirty. I've slept around. I know my reputation. I know the shame that I'm wearing around my, as a cloak around me. And she knows she's unworthy. She understands her need for forgiveness. And that's what Jesus is pointing out. See, Simon, you don't get it. You don't think you're in debt, but you're both in debt. But she actually realizes she's in debt. She actually realizes that she needs forgiveness. And so what he says to Simon is he looks at him, and as he's finishing up this parable, he says, therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. but he who is forgiven loves little. So is this verse saying that she's forgiven much because she loved much? No, it's saying she offers Jesus all of her love, all of her affection, all of her devotion because she deeply recognizes her need for forgiveness. She is thankful that Jesus would embrace someone like her. I want to share with you guys a quote from Tim Keller when he speaks about people who often say, I like Jesus, but I don't need him to get to God. Essentially, people who try to separate the message from the messenger. So I'm going to read this quote to you guys. And I thought it was just so beautifully describing the experience or the interaction between Jesus and this sinful woman. Some might say, I don't need Jesus to come to God. I have a personal relationship with God. I have a personal religion. And when they do, I have to come back and say this. What did it cost your God to have that personal relationship with you? Where is the agony? Where is the thorns? Where's the blood? To which they say, well, I don't think it was necessary for God to go through all of that to have a relationship with me. And I say, right. That's the reason why you're not weeping. That's the reason why you're not letting your hair down. That's the reason why you're not ripping everything off, the most precious things in your life, and laying it before him. Your religion is formal, like Simon's. It's not personal because the cost. Simon doesn't know the cost. And this sinful woman's poured out worship, her passionate, unashamed, reserved, don't hold me back type of worship before Jesus is a response to seeing his beauty, his forgiveness, his grace, his unconditional love. Her response to his beauty is, if you are who you truly say you are worthy of me giving everything I have. Her response wasn't an optional response. It wasn't a chosen response. It wasn't I decide to give Jesus all of my worship. It was an automatic response. She couldn't help herself. It was a knee-jerk response to the grace and the love and the beauty of his forgiveness. And see, there are some people in this room who can identify with the sinful woman. There are some of you in this room right now, as I'm speaking, you're thinking about the things you're ashamed of, the things you did this week. You're thinking about the things that you've done in the past. You're thinking about maybe what you did yesterday. And maybe right now you're thinking, that's true, I am a cheater. I am messed up. I am a failure. I am sinful. I am dirty. And so some of us in this room, we could relate and relate with the sinful woman. But there are many of us actually in this room, on the other hand, who are like Simon. We are put together. We've been coming to church for a long time. And I love what Liz said during worship, that sometimes in the busyness of life, we just go through. We don't sit in the beauty of his grace, the beauty of his forgiveness. And some of us, we're like Simon. We hold back our worship. We reserve ourselves before God. We reserve the doubt and the thoughts that we have in our mind. We give him what we think he wants, but what he really wants is the raw, real, dirty, untouched parts of ourselves. And that's what the sinful woman understood. There are many of us that we count the cost, but we're like, you know what? It's just too much. I'm not going to be all out today. I'm going to be all out next week. I'm not going to really share with God what I'm going through now. I'm going to wait till there's a good time to do it. But this sinful woman said, I can't hold back. He knows how dirty I am. He knows how sinful I am. And he extends this grace to me. And see, a lot of us in this room, I want to call myself out. I want to call some of us out. We're like Simon. We mask ourselves. And it's actually only in these short moments where we slip up, or where we're faced with a failure, or where we're faced with something that happened that makes us go back to God in that and receive that grace in the way the sinful woman did. It's only in short moments where we desperately see the depth of our brokenness and our sins because we're okay with just getting by. It's only in short moments where his grace breaks through and touches us. But when we are really centered in the gospel, when we really let our hearts out before God, some of us, we would be so ashamed if our thoughts were displayed on this screen right now, right? Some of us would be so ashamed. On the outside, you might look like you have it all together, but some of you might be so ashamed if what was happening in your mind or your heart was displayed on this screen right here. And so when we're really centered in the gospel, we're the sinful woman. When we're really centered, just those short moments where we really see the depth of our brokenness and our desperacy for God. There's all of us, we all have a part of ourselves that we don't want anyone to see. And I don't care how holy, how righteous, how good you think you are, we all have that. We all have a part of ourselves we conceal. That it's too broken, it's too shameful, too raw for anyone to see. And the only difference between Simon and the sinful woman was that she notices her brokenness. She's fully aware of it. And so here is the key takeaway from this passage. There's only two responses to the revelation of Jesus. It's that of the sinful woman where she is unconditional. She says, take all that I have, take all that I am. Or it's that of Simon, it's conditional. Simon is thinking, do I have to do all of that? Jesus, do you really want that? You want me to touch you? You want me to kiss you? You want me to pour myself at your feet? Jesus, do you really want that? And Jesus' response to him is, see, Simon, she kissed me. She wet my feet with her tears. She's anointed my feet. You have not even given me water to wash my feet with. You have not anointed me, but she has done all of this. And see, Simon's response is conditional. He's saying, do I have to really do all of that? And the answer is yes, because Jesus wants all of us. He wants all of our worship. He wants worship that is poured out, that's unreserved, that holds nothing back. And see, the tension is, if this is true, that there are only two responses to Jesus, if there are only two responses to the beauty of Jesus, the tension is that some of us might be thinking right now, and I'm right there with you, and that's why this message convicted me so much. The tension is, some of us might be thinking, my worship, my internal posture does not resemble that of the sinful woman. It's been a long time since I've wanted to pour myself out to God. It's been a long time before I've laid myself before him crying and letting myself get there, get to that place of unashamed passion. So the tension is, if it is true that there are only two responses to the beauty of Jesus, some of us might be thinking, how do I give him poured out worship again? How do I find that passion again? And I'm right there with you because we've been through a lot during COVID, right? This is the post-COVID era where I've had so many conversations with you guys in this room where we're battling spiritual fatigue. We're battling spiritual numbness. Some of us were battling spiritual trauma. We've seen the ugliness of the church. We've seen the ugliness of ourselves, and we're healing from that. We're resting from that. We're taking a step back from that. And I'm not saying we have to do more. I'm not saying we have to muster up passion because we can't. Have you guys ever tried that? Like you're like worshiping and you're like trying to like feel passion, but all you're faced with is emptiness. All you're faced with is, God, I'm just tired. All you're faced with is, you think about the past and you think, was that real? Did I really love God that way? And will it ever come back again? I'm right there with you. And see, when I look at the sinful woman, she wasn't passionate because she wanted to be passionate. She wasn't going all in because she wanted to go all in. It's not about us getting more passionate by singing louder, by signing up for a serving team, by doing more and getting louder and worshiping louder and forcing ourselves to be there. Some people say fake it till you make it. If you fake it long enough, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it ever. Like, you're just going to fake it, and one day you're going to think, oh my gosh, where is God? What happened to me? So today I want to invite you to take off that mask and be real. Some of us were trying to get back to that place. But when I look at this woman, she's not being passionate because she wants to be passionate. She's being passionate because she's responding to how beautiful Jesus is. It's just a response to him. She's not trying to do it. She's not trying to muster up this all-in emotion. She's responding to his beauty. Where is her passion coming from? She's a prostitute who's being forgiven. She's a rejected woman who's being embraced. She's a sinful woman who's being loved despite how disregarded she has been in society. And for some of us, we just need to look at the beauty of Jesus, that he saved your marriage, that he healed you from your depression, that he gave you hope to wake up for another day, that he gave you hope, that he has a purpose and a plan for you. And so, see, it's not about doing more. It's about looking to the beauty of Jesus and saying, I know that my passion is just a simple response to how loved I am by you, how forgiven I am by you. It is a response to his beauty. And I'm going to invite the worship team to come up because I'm going to close with this. I just want to share with you guys a story about just a time where I was reminded and come face to face with the beauty of Jesus. I grew up in church. My father's a pastor. And growing up, I never really struggled with external sins. And William and I always talk about this. We could not be more black and white. Drugs, girls, like all of that stuff, drinking. And, so his story is like, I met Jesus and I gave it all to him. And, if I wish I could show a before and after picture because we always laugh about it. But his story couldn't be more different from mine. Me, grew up in church, pastor's kid, not bad. Like I never, if my parents were like, you can't stay out past 9, I was like, okay. Like I always tried to be this obedient girl. My struggles were internal. I struggled with mild depression all throughout middle school and high school. I struggled with extreme insecurity. I struggled with believing that God had a purpose and a plan for me because I had such low self-worth. I struggled with anxiety, and so pretty much my struggles were all internal. And when I went to college, when I was away from my friends, I went to college outside of my city. I was lonely. It was the first time I was away from my friends and my family for such a long time. I didn't know anybody when I was going to college. And so I was confronted with loneliness. My depression hit an all-time low. I was crying every day. And teenage years, hormones, it's normal, right? Like, we all think, oh gosh, no one cares about me, right? But in college, my depression hit an all-time low where I just stopped going to church. I walked away from everything I knew. And I started doing things that I was really ashamed of. Some things that I just still don't really like sharing to this day. And that first year of college was a really dark period for me where I just didn't know if I would ever go back to God. And some of us, we're there right now. Maybe you feel ashamed. You feel like it's just been a long time since you've been able to really come to God. And for me, I was this good girl. I was just an average girl, drinking, partying, doing other stuff. And after a few months, I was like, oh, I don't know who I am anymore. And after some time, I just got so ashamed that I never wanted to go back to the church I went to. I got so ashamed that I disassociated from my friends from home. And I just went through this dark period. And I really believe it's because I knew somewhere deep inside that what I was really longing for was for God. I wanted to find my satisfaction in him. And I just let myself go. You know, my dad, he would make fun of me. He's like, whoa, you're putting on the alcohol weight, you know, and he would say, and I kept, you know, he would just make fun of me all the time because he knew that something was off about me. And what happened was, I remember I was packing up in my dorm room for spring break, and I was just packing things up, and my YouTube was playing in the background. We didn't have Spotify back then, it was YouTube. And so YouTube was playing in the background, and suddenly that song, None But Jesus, came up. And I don't know how it came up because I was listening to something else. It was just a playlist of random songs, but None But Jesus came up. And I was listening, and it's my first time I heard that song, and I just started crying and weeping. Because if you know that song, the lyrics are, there is no one else for me. None but Jesus, crucified to set me free. And that word free pierced my heart because I was telling God, like as I was packing up and I was crying and I just stopped packing and I knelt on the floor and I just started weeping and I was like, God, I want to be free from this. I've struggled with depression my whole life, but I don't know how to get out of this. And if I'm to be honest, I didn't even have the strength to come to God, quote unquote, come to God. And as I was there kneeling, I remember I saw an image of myself. I was in an ocean and the waves were black, the water was black, and I was drowning and I was reaching out. And that was the state of my heart. I was desperate. I was like, I don't want to live. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to even try to come back to you, God, because I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed of the things I've done. And I saw myself reaching out of those waves, and in a moment, I saw this big white hand that was so bright, it was light, pure light, reach out and pluck me out of that water. And I knew it was God. I knew it was God saying, you don't have to reach for me. I'm going to reach for you. I got you. And see, that's some of us in this room right here. You might be like the sinful woman who feels so ashamed, who feels so far gone. Or some of us like Simon, where it's like, it's been so long where I've even felt that passion. But see, today the invitation is to respond to him. And see, in Romans it says, God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, he died for us. That means that on your worst day, where you're faced with a memory of the past and you're filled with shame again, he still loves you. On days where anxiety grips you again and cripples you again, he still loves you. On days where you slip back into pornography or you slip back into that toxic relationship and you did what you didn't want to do, he still loves you. On days where you judge that person next to you for being too crazy for God, he still loves you. He's still after you. And see, that is the response of the sinful woman. She couldn't help herself. She said, if it is true who you say you are, then I'm going to give you everything I have because you are worthy. It was an automatic response. And today, I want to invite you guys. I know we're struggling. I know we all smile and we show up at church and we act like we're good. But I know a lot of us in this room, we're healing. God's love, God's vivid, tangible love, his presence is just a memory of the past. There are some of you who have openly shared with me, you're going through deconstruction, you're deconstructing your faith. You don't know if this is for you. There might be some of you in this room, you're here for the first time and you're like, I've heard about Jesus and I didn't know that his love was this beautiful. I didn't know that he was after the sinful woman. I didn't know that he was after the hurting and the broken. And so I want to invite you today to get in a posture of, here is my worship, to pour ourselves out at his feet. And this invitation is for you. If it's been a long time, I want to give you that space today. If it's been a long time since you've been just unashamed, undignified before God, I want to give you that space today. And so can we just close our eyes? And you could do anything you want. You could stand up, you could get in the aisle, you could come to the front, you could do whatever you want to get into that position of worship. But I just want to give you space to respond to his beauty right where you are, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you're feeling. I just want to release you guys to do that. I've asked the worship team to sing this song, and I just want to invite you guys to do it in whatever posture you want to.